Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to another video. As I'm sure many of you are already aware by now, a brand new secret room has just been opened. So in today's video, we're going to be going over all the information that was just put out inside of this room, which honestly, I have already gone over everything. And lucky enough for me, last night, or I guess you could say this morning, since it was like around 3 a.m., me and Marm were inside of a voice call on Discord for well over an hour, just talking about all of the different theories. And he did go ahead and answer about 5 or 6 of my questions that I had regarding the emails that are inside of the void tracking room. Now, unfortunately, I didn't actually record the entire conversation because we also did talk about other things, but the vast majority of the info that he did give me was put out in the brand new secret room. Now, aside from that, I also do have a little bit of information on the upcoming boss that's going to be coming out, as well as our very first look at what the brand new skin is going to be that you get rewarded when you do take down this new boss. And let me tell you, it looks so good. But anyways, let's go ahead and waste no more time here. As you can see, I am inside of the item shop right now, and that's going to be our reference point so that you can follow along with me as we make our way over to the brand new secret room or secret bunker, whatever it is that you want to call it. So if we go ahead and head out this door right here, as if we were on our way to the Dimension Reaper, you'll notice that on the very far distance over there, there is a new hatch that has opened. So as you can see right now, we are standing right in front of the new open hatch. Over there is the item shop, and then right here is normally where the Dimension Reaper would be spawning. As we make our way inside, you will notice there is a brand new room called Student Information Logs. Unfortunately, this room is not open yet, but if you look around, there is tablets on the table that seem to have more or less been forgotten out here. But on each one of these tablets, there is something insanely interesting, and that is the fact that we now have information on the previous fleet that was mentioned inside of the void tracking room. We finally have a backstory on Epidub, as well as all the teachers that are located inside of the school. Now we're going to go ahead and get started with the table that's located on the very far left side, and this is the one that's the most important because it has information on Marm, Epidub, as well as the fleet that I was talking about. But I do definitely recommend that you guys stick out through the entire video because these two other tables do have important information, as well as our first sneak peek at some of these sectors that potentially may be coming in the future. Now, if you guys have seen my very first video that I made when the void tracking room was open, you'll know that I went over an email there where briefly it was mentioned that in the past there was a fleet that was sent into the void area that unfortunately was unsuccessful and was completely destroyed. For the very first case record, it seems like it goes over those details again, but obviously more in depth. And then we have the fleet record on the left hand side, which goes even more in depth. But here it says, after the complete failure of the fleet, one of the very few survivors that returned from the void sector was Marm and Epi, who was corrupted by Classified when he returned. This is extremely important because I have been seeing a lot of you saying in the comments that potentially Epidub could have been declassified because obviously we didn't have any background information on him, and because you guys had seen the loading screen, which yes, that is Epidub and Marm kind of initiating in a fight. But with the information that is shared right here at the very start, we can already kind of rule out Epidub as being the classified. Now after that, it says negative energy exposure is what causes the corruption and eventually will lead to severe body changes, leading them to become a void creature. Marm refused to let his close friend Epi turn and fought with him for 2 days straight in one of the underground facilities. Oddly, Marm had just as much negative energy in his soul as Epi did, but he was not corrupted, which has never been seen before. This is something different about Marm's soul that has allowed him to remain normal and even channel his negative energy. He is indeed a true Generation X sorcerer. One of the questions that I did ask Marm last night was if the fight that we see in the loading screen takes place inside of the principal's office, aka known as the secret room with the button. His exact answer to this was no, it does not take place there. As a matter of fact, it takes place inside of one of the hatches. Now, this is referenced in the case record that we just read. Specifically, the part where it says Marm refused to let his close friend Epi turn and fought with him for 2 days straight in one of the underground facilities. So again, I still stand by what I said that I don't believe Epidub is declassified, simply because Marm and Epidub have a very close relationship. As we read more of the records, you'll understand why I say that. Now, another thing to note about this is something that we hadn't been referenced yet, but it is mentioned in every single one of these records, words, and that is the term generation. If we go ahead and make just a really quick scan, you'll see Epi is generation 0, Marm is the only generation X. We have Violet being the plasma trainer, which is a generation 1.5, the healer generation 1, brawler generation 1, and so forth. Nobody is a generation X. Now I'm sure a lot of you are, well, what exactly is a generation? And honestly, it's a little confusing to explain, especially when you don't really have anything to show. But the way that I more or less understood it when Marm was explaining it to me is kind of like, think of karate and the karate belts. So let's go ahead and say generation 0 is a white belt and generation X is a black belt, being the very, very top. And then obviously you would have generation 1.5, which would be maybe like a yellow belt, a green belt, the ones that are kind of in between. I'm not really too familiar with karate belt colors, but I just felt like that was the best representation that a lot of you would maybe understand. So with that being said, let's go ahead now and move over to the fleet record. So the year is 2490, and the previous fleet that existed before us was between the generations of 0 and 0.9. So again, keep in mind, you as the student and as the player of Sorcerer Fighting Simulator are at the very lowest a generation 1. If you notice, all of these trainers are no less than generation 1. Therefore, they have gone ahead and taught you how to be wiser than the previous fleet that existed before us. Now, the total forces of it was 65,000 sorcerers. Unfortunately, only 103 survived, therefore making the mission a complete failure. It says a 5-year operation to plan. The fleet of 2490 is the first of its kind to venture into the negative realm and infiltrate the void sector after void activities within the positive realm has spiked in all sectors in the last 30 years. The operation only lasted 2 years and was a complete failure. There was no chance to retrieve intel as the wall separating the realms made it impossible for communication and reconnaissance. So the fleet was unprepared. Classified somehow knew everything about the attack on their front. Now, what's really interesting about this is the fact that Classified was able to know when we were coming in and basically knew what was going on before it even happened. This is obviously a huge problem because it means one of two things. Either somebody amongst us is the Classified, or somebody amongst us is giving information to the Classified, therefore making them interested in whatever the corrupted is. I also do want to go ahead and point out that once we've gone over all the information that is on top of these tables, I will be showing you guys a little bit of gameplay, as I mentioned in the start of the video, which is the upcoming boss, which happens to be a corrupted sorcerer. But moving into the next and final two that are located on top of this desk are the teacher records for both Marm and Epi. Let's go ahead and start off with Epi, because I know there's going to be that comment that's going to say, well, Epi is generation 0, therefore making him pretty much the weakest sorcerer that is completely amongst us, because obviously us as the students, we are generation 1. And it's really important to remember that we are generation 1. Do not get this confused with what your teacher's generation is. There is no indication that because our plasma teacher is generation 1.5 and you yourself as a student are using the plasma magic, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are generation 1.5. But anyways, we'll go ahead and get into all of that once I move over to the teacher records. I'm not going to be reading in depth on each and every one because it really just gives a background about them, but there is certain little details in each one that I want to go over, specifically being the sectors. But here it says, originally a city defender with the rising threat of negative energy, Epi decided and convinced his friend Marm to become sorcerers to protect humanity. This part is extremely important. It says, despite being generation 0, Epi has defeated sorcerers as high as generation 2+. He was one of the very few that returned after the Void Rush attack after the fleet was obliterated among entering the negative realm. He is also the only known case to return back to normal after being corrupted as a result of Marm. But let's go ahead and move over to Marm's record, and it says, being one of the many who are not born with magic abilities, Marm somehow, through the sheer power of will, manifests magic through his soul later in life. There only has been a record of 8 humans to do this in a population of 500 billion. This would explain why he was not corrupted during the Void Rush attack of 2492 when all of his squad was unfortunately corrupted and turned against him. He was only able to uncorrupt one member and close work partner, Epi. So right there, that answers our question that the reason why Marm is so powerful is simply because he wasn't born into being a sorcerer. He actually learned the ability to manifest magic through his soul. And honestly, with everything that we are hearing, I'm kind of leaning to the fact that potentially this classified person that we're talking about could be one of the 7 other humans that were able to manifest this magic through their soul. Obviously, we're gonna have to wait and see until more information comes out about this, but so far, this is really what we have right now. Aside from the next thing that we're gonna go over really quickly, I don't want to get too in depth. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video about the teacher's records, but we do have the names of 3 or 4 potential future sectors that could be making their way into the game. The very first one that we're going to take a look at is from the water teacher, which if we go ahead and take a look at the very start of the background, it says coming from an exceptionally rich family from sector Dream Weaver. Again, this is a sector that we have not heard of yet, and it is extremely important to keep in mind that there is a huge difference between sectors and realms. I mentioned this because if you remember in the fleet record, it does say that the previous fleet was the first of its kind to venture into the negative realm and infiltrate the void sector. So that's definitely something that you guys want to go ahead and keep in mind. Now, next to the water teacher, we have the lightning teacher being Tempest, and for him, it mentions the name of another sector being the Nightfall sector. And now the next and final one is actually really interesting because it is not only a magic that we do not have available yet, so this does go ahead and confirm that the magic that is coming is indeed earth magic, but this teacher being Terra, which we have not met yet, is the strongest teacher that is amongst all of the teachers, being at generation 1.7. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and read the entire background because this one has the most amount of information out of all of them in my personal opinion. So right off the start, we get the name of another sector. It says being born and raised in sector Haven, it was only natural that Terra would be a master sorcerer for one of the most prestigious magic schools amongst all sectors. So yes, that does confirm that the school that we are a part of right now is the most prestigious magic school amongst every single one of the sectors that are within this world. Obviously, we only have the name of about 3 or 4 of them right now, but I would imagine that there has to be a lot more. Continuing on from that, it says after being told she would not get very far due to low energy conversion, she proved those who doubted her wrong by becoming a cryptomancer rank. So again, a lot of information was shared inside of this room, man. And honestly, this video is probably a little bit longer than I expected it to be. And truthfully, there is still way more information that we need to go over in here. So if you guys would like a follow-up video, let me know in the comments. I will definitely do that. But really quickly, before we end off this video, I do want to show you guys the information that was shared out about the upcoming boss. So we're going to make this nice, quick, and simple. On the screen right now, you are taking a look at the footage that was put out by Marm over on Twitter. And this does show the entire fight, except that this is only the entire fight for the very first phase. So I believe in total there is 4 phases that you're going to need to go to. So basically the way that it's going to work out is the boss will spawn into the world. You will need to travel to the location of where this boss is located. That will then initiate the very first phase. You basically go ahead and take out all of the corruptor's minions, and then you will need to quickly travel through a very intricate obstacle course, which honestly I maybe will be able to show you guys a little bit of footage of that in the background because Marm was streaming it on Discord last night, but unfortunately his stream was a little bit laggy, so you won't really be able to see much, and that's kind of the reason why I'm not playing the whole entire clip for you guys, but it does give you a general idea of how it's going to look. Now at the very end, once you reach phase 4, you will go ahead, take out all of the corrupted's minions, and obviously go up against the corrupted sorcerer himself. And honestly, I can make an entire video just talking about the corrupted sorcerers because we have so much information about it now. So more than likely be expecting that video maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. I will go ahead and kind of go a little more in depth on the entire boss fight and all that stuff because I more or less understand the mechanics now, and I also have images to show you guys about that. But we're gonna go ahead and end off this video with a quick little image of what the brand new staff, which as far as I'm understanding, this will be the reward for once you take down the corrupted. And let me tell you, dude, it looks so sick. Honestly, my favorite color is red, so just the fact that it is red makes it 1,000 times cooler. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for all types of different content. And again, be expecting more videos about this topic because I do want to get a little more in depth, as well as sharing a little more information with you guys that Marm did tell me in that voice call. But that's pretty much going to go ahead and do it for today's video. Like always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.